Hello everybody, here we are again. I hope y'all will excuse the drop in video, or the drop in the number of videos that I've been shooting. I've been moving, so if you've ever moved in your entire life, you know what a huge pain that is. But I'm back today, I'm doing this just for y'all today. I forced this to happen, and we're going to do it. So, the lonely INFJ keeps coming up, and it's an issue. It keeps coming up because it's an issue. So, let's talk about getting this camera straight for one. There. Y'all let me know what you think of that video angle. So, the lonely INFJ keeps coming up, and it's a problem. I mean, I, of all people, know that. I just ended a relationship. And we're going to talk about that next, but in the next video. But today, or right now, we're going to talk about why and how, or how is it that it happens that nobody ever checks on somebody that looks like they're okay all the time. And we do that well. We spend our entire lives masking, and we mask to the point that we have other people believing that we're okay. Nobody checks on the one who looks okay all the time. Why would you? They're always composed. They're always kind of, flat effect, just, stoic all the time. Nothing affects them. Why would you check on that person? And that's what the outside world is looking at. Here we are spending all of our energy, all of our time, all of our compassion on other people. And yet we mask so well that the outside world can't see that our soul is crying a lot. Maybe not always because we're lonely, but we spend a lot of time in that. That's why we need our recharge time. We've got to get that solace so that we can recharge, and we'll be available again next week or tomorrow. But that's really the cruelest part, isn't it? The whole world sees us. I mean, that's our biggest strength. The whole world sees us as being in control, being almost untouchable by whatever's going on around us. Whatever drama or chaos or whatever. Now, I absorb other people's emotions so heavily that I get emotionally charged because of it. But I still hate the drama. I hate the all the crap that goes along with everything. But that's really the cruelest part, is that we spend all of our resources, our internal resources, on helping other people. And yet, nobody ever looks at us and says, "Are you okay?" I mean, really looks at us and says, "Are you okay?" They might in small talk say, "How are you?" But see, that's different than walking up to you out of the blue and saying, "Hey, I've been thinking about you. Are you okay?" I once had a preacher tell me that, "Oh, I've never really worried about you. You always seemed like you were okay." And I looked at him and said, "I am." Now that's on a spiritual note. On a spiritual note, I am okay, but the language he used fits right into today's video, which is, I never worried about you because you always seemed like you were okay. You didn't need any help or anything. And that's the way we live life. I mean, that's the way we go through life, and that's the cruelest part of it, is that here we are going through all this loneliness and lack of support and everything else. Because everybody else thinks we're doing fine. Not because we are doing fine, not because we don't need any help or any support, but because we look like we don't. Nobody ever even checks. Nobody ever calls us or texts us because they were worried that we were affected negatively about something that they witnessed, because we just absorbed it and kept going, because we deal with it later that afternoon, later that evening, and then we stay up all night playing it over and over and over, trying to figure out why we feel so bad about that interaction. So we're sitting over here, I can't say that. I was going to use a popular term in real life speak, but I can't do that on this platform. So we sit here going over these things over and over and over again, and running through it and just causing ourselves all this turmoil. And nobody else sees it. Nobody else ever calls us on it, unless you're really lucky. Excuse me. I cannot get happy with this camera. There, maybe it's a little level if it's not going to bounce everywhere now. But nobody's calling us because we make it through. So we pour out, and pour out, but we don't get back. So now I want to talk about, I mean, that's really of our own, to a degree, that's our own fault. We're doing it to ourselves. Not intentionally, but if you had a choice to negatively affect someone else or to just deal with it yourself, I think we both know that you would choose to deal with it yourself instead of handing it to someone else, because we don't know how full their plate may be. We don't know how much they're successfully masking from us. See, they might be pretty good at masking things. And even though we get an off feeling or we're just not sure about that person, sometimes we don't trust that first feeling, or even a recurring feeling. We may not trust fully because, something's not right, but they never say anything and they don't look that, none of the, it's just that feeling. And it's none of that overwhelming sense of, hey, something's definitely wrong. So we're not sure how much that person's dealing with. So we would much rather just deal with it ourselves, because then we don't have to feel guilty about dumping our crap on somebody else Or we don't have to worry about getting the door slammed on us because what we're thinking about is so outside the norm and so heavy to what normal people are dealing with, if you'll excuse the term normal people. But all the people that don't have the same struggles that we have internally, there's a good possibility that if you share what's going on in your head, then you're going to get maybe not literally the door slammed in your face, but you're going to get a proverbial door slammed in your face, because what you're dealing with is just too heavy for the rest of the world to comprehend. So now let's talk about self-care, because you're not going to answer this lonely question in one video. I wish I could. I wish I could address that effectively enough so that every person that has a problem with that from an INFJ perspective could go, that's why. That solves it. Problem solved. Next. Not that would be the solve for, even a quarter of what's going on, but it would take a big load off, wouldn't it? It sure would me, because I still deal with it. But let's talk about self-care. Now, don't hang up on me, because there's a lot of that's a big, that's kind of a hook that people are using. Oh, self-care, and but what if you've done self-care and it wasn't worth anything? What if you just can't even make yourself sit down and write something down? Because, hey, some of us can't. I can write, but my self-care does not look like that. My self-care does not involve me sitting down somewhere and journaling. For some reason, there's this big hype around journaling, and I just don't feel like it's as popular as the people who get paid to think it's popular really is. So, I mean, if you wrote a book or you teach a class and you really got a lot of positive feedback with that, then you're going to want to go back to that and talk about it some more. But here's the thing. If I'm being honest, I need more than to just write things down, or I need more than to just write things down. I need to talk things out, and I cannot do that on paper with a pen, and that's what they're talking about. They're talking about sitting down and putting pen to paper, and that being the way that you self-care, and that being that, then because of that, you're doing that, then you're making progress. But for me, that doesn't work. If it works for you, keep doing it. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying that you would get much farther if you did something else. I'm not putting that technique up against anything else. What I'm saying is, for me, that technique does not work. And I don't think it's as effective as some people would like to think that it is. So I'm not talking about that in and of itself. I'm talking about self-care from a person that knows what self-neglect truly feels like. And if you have watched my videos, you would have found somewhere in there, possibly more than once, I can't remember how many times I've mentioned it, that I went through a 2-year NITI spiral. Now, I'm not telling you that I did not go outside for 2 years. I did, 10 or 12 times. But inside that 2 years was filled with 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, even 2 months where I could not get out the front door. I wouldn't even look outside. I didn't want the blinds opened. Now, I came out of that deep, deep cycle several times to get out of the house and to do things and try to enjoy myself the best way I could. But I had an anticipation of the FE coming back and spiraling me again. And that's why I stayed stuck in that loop for 2 years, was because of FE. That external solidification, or the external that my brain needed to stay stuck in that spiral. Because an NITI spiral won't last forever on its own. If you go to a Christmas gathering, say, and somebody says something that upsets you or sends you into a spiral, you'll get out of that spiral just because it cannot sustain itself. It will become irrelevant, and your brain will recognize that, and you'll come out of it. But if you're living with your with someone that is constantly recharging that NITI spiral with emotional energy, then you can stay stuck for a long time, even though you find yourself coming out of it occasionally. The longer you stay in it, the relationship, then the longer you're going to stay in that spiral. You may break out now and again, but I'm not sure that there's a way to get out of that without ending the relationship. Because if it's gone to that place, and stayed there, a couple of months or 6 months, and you're spiraling and can't get out, then that relationship may need to come to an end for your health. So I speak with knowledge when I say that I know what it feels like to be self-neglectful. So I encourage self-care. And if journaling works for you, then journal. If walking gets you your positive say that you need, then go out into the concrete world and walk. And, whether you're thinking, listening to music, whatever you're doing, you're outside, you're in the real world, which is where we recharge most of the time. Not all the time, but TV and movies and radio for the most part, or music for the most part, is really a pause button for us INFJs, because it stops the brain thinking in that NITI spiral, but it doesn't ground you for the most part. There are some people that I have heard of that can break the spiral with music or movies or TV. So if you're one of those people, then I'm glad you can do that. For me, it can't. And for many others, I know that it can't. They need to be outside in nature, or in the world that we live in now. You can augment your own reality, and you can have an app on my phone that's free that generates sounds from outside. And if I've got headphones on, I can crank that sucker up and tune everything in just to the level that I want it, so that it sounds as real as it possibly can. And then I can lay down and meditate. There's another self-care way, or way to self-care, excuse me, is meditation. It doesn't have to be guided. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be, you can set a mindfulness bell. They've got those now that you can set that go off at any interval you want them to. So if you set a mindfulness bell and the bell lasts for a minute, it's one of those long, resonating bell tones, then just set it for every minute and a half or 2 minutes. I don't think minute and a half is possible, but set it for every 2 minutes. And then you're inside your own head for a minute, still thinking about what you were able to draw up from that bell. And then, but before you get pulled back into your NITI spiral, the bell goes off again, and that's able to jerk you back out of that loop, because that is in the say. That bell is a type of say. Then you can use that to kind of clear your head and recharge. Some people, and I used to do this, can meditate for an hour or even 2 hours without anything at all. I was deeply, deeply introspective at that time and could do that. I cannot now. It's not something that I can do, and it's not something that my brain will allow me to do. So I have to find my own way, which is part of breaking the spiral and stopping being lonely. That's what we're really talking about. But that loneliness many, many times comes from spiraling. But it works either way. If you're spiraling and need a break, you need to say. And a lot of these things that will break the spiral will also help you not to feel lonely. Because we're really happiest when we are alone, by ourselves. I'm as happy as I can be right now because I don't have to worry about pleasing somebody else. I don't have to worry about sitting on that side, somebody sitting on that side, wanting to stop to go to the bathroom, or wanting to stop to look at a view that I don't give a shit about, or wanting another Coke because theirs got hot, or anything. I don't have to worry about anything. Just me, just riding around. So, and most of us are like that. So, we enjoy our alone time because it's our solace. We don't have to please anybody else. So, enjoy that time alone without being lonely, because you're lonely because other people aren't checking up on you. Nobody is asking you about you. Excuse me. Get some of the nectar of life here, so I'll turn the label around so you can see. I noticed the weather guy doing that locally. You know, he puts his Coke up on the table and it's like this. And then he's got to turn it and he's looking off over here, you know, where you know he's got a monitor. And he's like, oh yeah, well, I got to get it turned around there to get, okay, now. And then, but he doesn't say anything about it. He's just talking about the weather as he's turning that to make sure you can see what kind of Coke he's drinking, because he's obviously getting free ones from a company that is not this one. I'll take all the free ones you'll give me. Locally, I think that would be Buffalo Rock. So hit me up. Um, I got no shame for Cokes, man. Give me all I can drink. I'll die happy, and I probably will die because of Cokes. Take care of yourself. That's the mantra of the day, really. That should be the mantra of every day. Take care of yourself. I'm as happy as I can be doing this, because after I finish doing this, I'm going to have to watch it, go back over it, make sure I didn't screw anything up so bad that I've got to either edit it, which is not really an option right now, or, well, I could edit it, but it's way more trouble than it would be worth, or reshoot it all together because my microphone isn't on, or because it's, yeah, I made a Michael J. Fox joke before, but if it, you know, if it looks like I'm being filmed from, you know, a bicycle or going, you know, up and down or something like that, you know, or a trampoline or something. So both of those were horrible analogies for the bounce effect that this thing does sometimes. But anyway, this gives me pleasure. That's why I'm doing it. And this just happens to be something that I can do, that I'm capable of doing. Not everybody's capable, so not everybody even needs to try, because like for me, or maybe you need to try it, you need to find out it's not for you, which is like me for journaling. Journaling just isn't for me. For some people it is. I know a guy that spends between an hour and 2 hours a day writing shit down about his life and his thoughts that he has got, I don't know how many, but he goes through a book a month, the way I understand it. So, and he's been doing that since I've known him, and I've known him for 25 years. So 25 years, 25 times 12, you do the math. That's how many of those books he's got that I know of. And he was doing that when I met him and had been doing it for another 20 years. So you're talking about 40 years of journals that he keeps. He can go back to any day in history and there will be his thoughts at some point during that day. That blows me away. Because I'm thinking, who in the world why? I've got too much to worry about without worrying about keeping up with 40 years of journals. Just a place to put them is crazy enough, but it's pen to paper. It's not digital. It's in a journal. But if that works for you, do it. And if you've got to rent a storage building just to put your journals in, that's your business, as long as that's what makes you happy. Don't get trapped by it. Don't become, imprisoned by it. Because the minute I start having more trouble than pleasure out of this, I'll stop doing it, because then it's just going to be another headache, and that's the last thing I need. So find something that brings you pleasure while you're alone, because the focus here, and it's really going to help you to figure out that, but you have to figure it out. That's the thing. And how you do that is up to you, but you don't need me dictating to you how you can figure that out. You're smart enough to know. You're an INFJ. You don't need to be told how to figure out something. But figure out what that is that gives you pleasure. For me, it's being in the woods. It's being in the park. It's just being in nature. And if it's raining, you know what? I'll sit in the car and look out the windows. I'm still out there. I may not be down the trail, but I'm still out there looking at nature. Another big one for me is fishing. You can see right over my shoulder here that's I came here because this is what gives me pleasure. You don't know it and you haven't known it, but I've been watching this mockingbird go over here to a tree where I assume it has a nest, and then it's going back over here, not where you can see, but then it's going back over here and landing somewhere, and I assume grabbing something to eat, and then it goes right back over to the nest. So it's feeding babies. I know that. I can deduct that just by that behavior, and that gives me pleasure to see that. Now it's just flown to the top of the tree. It's a short little tree. It's a little tree on a golf course. It's a new one they put in. But he's flown up to the top of the tree, up about 10 foot high, and he's just looking there now, and he's going to wait till he finds something, and then he'll swoop down and grab it and carry it back up to that nest. And that sort of stuff gives me pleasure. Probably because there are no emotions. It's just doing what needs to be done. And I don't have to soak up any emotions watching that. There are no emotions involved in that. Another one for me is fishing. That's what I was going to say over my shoulder here. It's fishing. It's just getting out there. I have a bass boat, and when it's not 145 degrees at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'll go back out and go fishing. But right now, it's just too hot. I can't get out there, and my health is not good enough to get out there and do that. So I've got to wait till it cools down, and then I'll fish for a couple of months, and then it'll be winter, and I'll go into hibernation, because a lot of us INFJs go into hibernation in the winter because of the shorter days, and I'm talking in the northern hemisphere. Because of the shorter days, we just, unless we've got some sort of activity that we enjoy doing in the dark, then we'll just hibernate. I do it almost every year, although I had one that lasted 2 years recently, but with the exception of that 2-year span, then I hibernate just about every winter. And then I come back out of it in the spring, and I'm ready to go again. So I'm waiting to see. There's a squirrel back here over my shoulder here. I'm waiting to see if he's going to come up in the screen or on the screen for y'all, because my mirror is going to be in the way if I move too much. See, but he's over there somewhere, or he was. I don't know where he went now. I don't know where he went, but he was over there. So take care of yourself. And the cruel part that I was speaking about earlier is that we believe that somebody else is going to walk up to us and say, "Hey, are you okay? Is everything all right? Wow, this is going to be a long video. Is everything all right? Is everything good?" And they're not going to do that. Stop expecting them to do that. And maybe one day it will actually happen. And that will be another INFJ, maybe an INFP, that comes up to you and asks you that. And you will be able to identify them with a few quick questions. Let me know if you want to know what those are. And you will know that they have the emotional intelligence and the intellectual intelligence to handle you saying whether or not you're really okay, or if you just need to give them the standard answer. But one day, there's a possibility one of them will go, "Hey, what? You seem like something might not be okay." But until it does, stop expecting it to. It's not. That's the trap, see? And it's a trap that we set for ourselves. It's not anything that anybody else is doing. That's a trap we set for ourselves, because we are always in service of somebody else. We're always making sure everybody else is okay. That neutrality is maintained. And that's okay. Don't try to not be you. But stop expecting other people to not be them. You know yourself well enough to know you're going to be who you are. If you're somebody that absolutely hates watching cop shows on the weekend, then and you've hated it since the 90s, then that's not changing. Same way about your behaviors. You know how you behave, and you're not going to change them. Not just, not the hardwiring behaviors that we're talking about. You can change your outward behaviors, but the hardwiring that we're talking about, you can't change. That's not going to change. And you know that. So I'm not asking you to try to do that. What I am asking you to do is to stop trying to force other people to change their hardwiring. Because when you are asking everyday, average, ordinary citizens that you work with, or that you go to church with, or that you hang out with, whoever they are, wherever you find these people that you want them to say, what's wrong? What are you okay? You're asking them every time you do that, every time you go and you expect them to ask you if you're okay. You are expecting them, you are asking them to change their hardwired behavior. And they can't do that any more than you can. So the way to fix, one way to help fix, that's not the one and only answer, but one way to help fix being lonely is to realize that you don't have to be let down from now every day until the end of your life, because nobody's ever going to notice. You can concede today. It doesn't matter. They're not going to. They haven't yet. I'm 52 and they haven't yet. They haven't noticed it yet. Oh, there's been one or two, in my life as I went through life, but they're gone. Don't even know if I can remember. Oh, there's probably been half a dozen or so over 50 years, but don't even really know where most of them are anymore. The vast majority of them, I don't know where they are. So if you concede that, hey, this person these people are not going to ask me how I'm doing. They're not going to see that I'm not okay. And if you go ahead and concede that, then that will be one less letdown you have to deal with. And if there's one less letdown you have to deal with every single day, that adds up. Then to counteract that, take care of yourself. Do something you enjoy. Put yourself first. Stop putting everybody else first. Put yourself first. I'm not saying all day, every day. I'm saying set aside a time and do something that's important to you. Do something that means something to you. Do something that means nothing to you, but makes you feel better or makes you feel good. Any of those things qualify. If that's journaling, journal. If it's getting out in nature and just walking, if it's walking down the road, don't get hit, okay? I mean, let's show some self-care and not put ourselves in a situation where we're going to get hit. But walk down the road. Walk down the sidewalk. Walk through the woods. Sit on the edge of a lake and look out here at what's going on. Watch this stuff. Or watch like I've been seeing this bird over here go back and forth. I don't know where it is right now. But just sit somewhere and watch something. See, I'm not in the heat. I'm not in the heat. I'm in the nice and cool, but I enjoy seeing that lake behind me. I enjoy that mockingbird. And I'm sitting here in the car with the air conditioner on. So do something that is kind to yourself. I think weren't they running a campaign, Be Kind to Your Mind? So be kind to your mind, be kind to yourself. If you don't take care of you, nobody else is going to either. And at the same time, you take better care of you than anybody else ever will. But you have to do it. You can't let yourself spiral endlessly, needlessly, even about being lonely. If you're asking yourself and you're puzzling and it's a daily struggle as to why you're so lonely, there's a very good chance that is a spiral that you need to address and get yourself out of. There aren't too many people that can get an INFJ out of their own spiral other than the INFJ themselves. And you do that by getting in the say. That's an absolute fact. Now, I'm not coming up with new shit here. It's an absolute fact. If you get out of wherever you are spiraling, which is most likely at home at night, or at least in the afternoon, and you get yourself out of that area that you spiral in, and you go out and you get into say, whatever your say is, walking, bicycling, skateboarding, for God's sakes, whatever it is, do it. Because that's taking care of you. And yeah, you can call it selfish, but you know what? Sometimes it's good to be selfish, because selfish is the other side of the coin of selfless. And you can't be selfless all the time, because if you do, there will be less and less of yourself to be selfless with. And eventually you'll run out, and you'll be stuck inside behind the front door in your spiral. Come back and see me again. I'll make the next one quicker. I'll try to anyway, but this is a deep, deep subject that is probably going to go on for another half dozen videos. I said before, there are so many variables to this loneliness thing that it could take a video a day for the next 5 years for all of us to get everything worked out. I'm going to try not to make that many videos on being lonely, although I probably could and get away with it. Come back and see me next time. Let me know if you like this angle rather than over here right in front of me. But I'm in the car today instead of my truck, so it was just way too close in the car. So I put you on the other side. Let me know what you think. And look, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell. And do it because I told you to, because your life is going to be better if you do those things. You know I'm right. I'm looking directly at you, right into your future. And I'm telling you that in your future, if you take the road that includes you liking, subscribing, hitting the notification, your life is going to be better. You know it is, because I said it is. Right? Hit me up. Send me a comment. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know if I've helped you at all. And we will see you next time. My name's Mark. Thanks for following along.